All right. Well, we have one more show from today to chat about. So, as I said in the last video, it's a little challenging to make Sundays a 2-show day, but you can. And we did. So we went Off-Broadway again tonight, and we saw the Big Gay Jamboree, which I believe is still in previews. I'm not entirely sure if they've opened yet or not, but if they haven't, they're like a week or two out from opening. And my God, this show is in solid shape. We laughed our butts off at this. So we were sold on this.
There was one line flub, and it wasn't until
like
late
the
in
very
show,
last scene, which I might. Last scenes are always the ones that get rewritten the most. So that's probably
that
why.
too, yeah.
But we wanted to see this one as soon as it was announced because it is actually written by the same person who originally wrote and starred in TITANIQUE, which we are huge fans of. And like, I'm sorry, but just like the title, like first of all, we're definitely the target demographic for this show, just based on the title. And like, I could just tell like this is gonna be funny. And it was. I think went into this with kind of high expectations. And
given our love for Titanic, yes.
And it exceeded our expectations. So what is the show about? So Big Gay Jamboree is a very quick hour and 45 minute show with no intermission. And it immediately starts off, like you can tell just from walking into the theater that it's like, oh, we're gonna send up golden age musicals with this show. And that's exactly what they do, and they do it brilliantly. The premise is going to sound very similar to the show Schmigadoon, which was on Apple TV Plus a couple years back. I can assure you it strays from that pretty quickly. Like you don't have that show, and we're big fans of that show too.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have that show in the back of your head as you're watching this. But the show starts off with our main character, Stacey, waking up after a drunken night of partying, and she is now trapped in a golden age musical and can't figure out how to get home. And from there it just gets super silly and goofy and just really fun, and sends up golden age musicals in a brilliant way and often unpredictable way. Like I don't like the jokes that were made and the song like parodies that were done. I figured we would get something like that, but it wasn't exactly what I expected. Yeah. Which was great. The one big difference between this and Titanique is this is a completely original show. It's not based on any pre-existing material, and it has an original score. And the score I really enjoyed. And what were your thoughts on the score?
Yeah, no, it was very good.
I feel like we can't like talk too much about
the weak song.
There's really not a weak song, and it's hard to talk about the songs in the show without like giving away what they're sending up.
Yeah.
But there's definitely character types that they're also making fun of. There's one character, what was the character's name? But definitely like Flora. The character of Flora is basically like if Ado Annie was like, it's Ado Annie on steroids. Like it's Ado Annie, but way hornier. Yeah. Like she makes Ado Annie look like a nun. Okay, like she there's and the character was done in like such a fun way. The actress that is in that role like completely nails it.
And the voice
was very Marilyn Monroe.
Yes.
Which totally fits. Yeah, her name is Natalie Walker. Great performance from her in this. So funny, great dancer, great vocalist. Can nail a joke. Although, I mean, I think that could be said of every single person in this cast, down to the ensemble. Every single person.
They all had their moments.
Great vocalists, great dancers, and can nail the comedy. We saw a standby for Stacey. So we saw Courtney Wolfson, who was great. kind of gave me like, who did I reference when we were walking home? Carrie Butler, like Carrie Butler in like the Hairspray days kind of vibe. Very, very funny. Just like really fun to watch her sort of react to this ridiculously crazy world around her and not know how to like deal with it. And then there's another a couple of performers in this that were like true standouts. So Stacey ends up falling for Clarence, who is the town's African American gospel choir director.
Barber.
And
Wasn't he the barber?
no, he wasn't the barber. That was one of the ensemble guys.
Oh, wasn't he?
Yeah, but his name is Paris Nix, and my God, this guy is like a star. And that was one of the things that I think was really special about this show is like all of these people that are in this are people that I think are on the cusp of like hitting it big. Like they're all super talented. They're doing amazing work in this show, but I don't think any of them have had like the big break yet. And like you just kind of walk out of the theater thinking like, this is going to be a stepping stone kind of show for you. Like you're doing amazing work in here and the material suits you so well, but this is going to lead to bigger projects and bigger things. And I cannot wait to see what happens for Paris Nix, because like I thought he was going to get a standing O after his number. I wanted to give him a standing O, honestly. They do this whole number with him about how like since he's the gospel choir director and he's one of the only African American people in the town, that he's a character trope and like he's only in there to sing gospel songs. So then of course he ends up singing a gospel song about how he doesn't want to sing gospel songs anymore, and it's hilarious and like so tailored to what he can do as a dancer, as a singer, and as an actor, and like really like that was a highlight of the show for me, was that number. And they do the same thing with Natalie Walker as Flora, and then there's one other supporting character in this that just cracked me up, and that is the character of Bert, played by Constantine Razzouli. And Bert is the closeted homosexual that's been ostracized by the town, and they give him some of the funniest lines and a very, very hilarious and well thought out send up of one of my favorite moments in chorus line. I don't want to go into like too much on that because it's just like it was one of those unexpected things. With his character, they also do like he's part of like a group number where they make fun of Do Re Mi from Sound of Music, but with the character of Stacey teaching them gay slang terms, and it's crass and crude as is honestly the whole show, but so damn funny, and then of course they make the audience sing along to that.
What I appreciated about it though is it wasn't over the top crass and crude. It was like just enough.
Yeah.
Like I have a feeling that like when we see Drag the Musical, that one might be a little too much.
So, maybe with Alaska involved.
Yeah. So
I love Alaska, but still.
Yeah. Indeed, but like it wasn't to a level where I was like, maybe I'm feeling a little uncomfortable over here. There
may have been a prop that was like bedazzled, Benoit balls, but other than, I mean, are you really doing a gay musical if you don't have bedazzled sex toys? I don't, but
True.
Yeah, it's no, but I would agree. It's crass. I mean, you're gonna hear 4-letter words. I wouldn't take the kids to this show, but
we did see a kid.
We did. It just I was like, well, I mean, the show's in previews, which means reviews aren't out yet. But like, it's a little harder to do your research, but I mean, but yeah, I thought that was weird. The kid was like right in front of us, and I was like, oh my God. And I didn't ask any questions about the material, so I'm like, maybe everything flew over his head. I hope it did. Anyway, great performances all around, and the design work on this show was amazing. So the set was by a set collective called Dots, which does a lot of work on Broadway and Off-Broadway, and their work in this is so good. The whole show definitely has that like very two-dimensional kind of feel from like that you would expect from like an old like original production
the backdrops of like from Oklahoma,
or like there's these beautiful snow-capped mountains in the back that are very indicative of like Sound of Music, but it looks like a lot of things flying in, a lot of flats, a lot of things that don't look hyper realistic, but at the same time they're using like high tech stuff. Almost a lot of the drops were projected. The entire proscenium arch at the front of the stage was projected, and then they also have a turntable like Hamilton, and use that to very comedic effect right at the top of the show. And like just the way the show was designed and crafted was great. The costuming was fantastic, and it's very clear that the producers of this show saw the success of Titanique, which I don't think anyone saw coming. I mean, Titanique started in a basement of a bar, and as like a stage reading kind of thing with no set, no costumes. I believe, I could be wrong, but like it started much smaller than than the current production, and then has grown and grown and grown. And I think because this was the same writer, the producers of this show were like, she's funny and we trust her to knock it out of the park, and she did. The writing in this show is so funny. The book and the score are really, really enjoyable, and the staging, the choreography, everything about this was top notch. And quite honestly, I would not be surprised if when a small Broadway house opens up, if this transfers. I think like the production value is, there wasn't much of a difference between the production value of this versus Suff's earlier today, other than Suff's was in a bigger space and had about twice the cast members. That's really the only difference that I think they're, in terms of the quality of the design and the polish of the look and feel of this show, it's there, and it really, really fun. I would go see it again. And also, just like Titanique, there are moments that are improvised. One moment involving a audience member's cell phone, which I have never seen a show do this. If you don't want the spoiler, fast forward like 30 seconds. One of the characters interacts with an audience member, asks him to take out his phone and call the last person in his contacts, and like I thought it was a bit initially, like the person that they called was really one of the actors backstage, but no, it was like legit.
It sounded pretty legit,
because the audience member was like, yeah, we met this, it was some guy that he's dating, and he's like, they met in Massachusetts, and the guy over the phone sounded very confused and referenced Massachusetts and did not have the same voice of anyone in the cast. So I think that was probably like they actually called him, and they did hook a cable into the guy's phone. So I think they actually were doing that. I don't know, but really, really funny stuff with the audience interaction and improv stuff in this, and you can tell that the cast of this show is having a blast with it, as they should. Like it's really smart and funny material, and just again, like Titanique, silly and stupid, but silly and stupid with some thought behind how the show is crafted, and like the show knows exactly what it is and what it wants to do and what kind of experience it wants you to have, and it's like they just want you to sit your ass down for an hour and 40 minutes and laugh and have a good time and go home smiling, and they do it extremely well. This was a treat, and I would highly recommend this show, especially if you are part of the LGBT community, there are so many jokes geared specifically to us and about us that just were super, super funny. Anything else to say about this one? Anything that
it was nice to see Alex Moffat. Like,
I
hadn't seen him in ages just because like I liked him on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, Alex Moffat from Saturday Night Live is in this.
But yeah, he was randomly in this show.
And
okay.
And he plays the real life, not like in the musical world, but like the real boyfriend of the main character, and he's kind of a douche. And Alex Moffat plays
rich tech douche.
Plays rich white boy douchebag really, really well. I mean that in the best way. Like really funny.
Yeah.
And I bet a lot of his lines are. I kind of got the sense that they give him some freedom to play with what he says and does in the show. And I mean, why wouldn't you? Because he was on Saturday Night Live, and like his improv skills are great. But yeah, it was really fun to see him. That I forgot that to mention that. The only thing that I thought was a little off about this show was there were a few things with sound where like there were a few lyrics that were a little hard to understand, and I don't know if that was necessarily like a sound thing, like this they're still working out kinks with the sound mix, or if it's just that I'm not familiar with this show because it doesn't have a cast album yet. I really hope it gets a cast album because the songs are hilarious. You all need to hear an inspirational song about Jennifer Lopez and the shitty decisions that she makes in her life. Like we all need that song. And we got it.
Did not know to expect it, didn't know I needed it, but I got it now, so.
But I hope this gets a cast album, and I bet it will. But I think maybe some of the reasons why I missed some of the lyrics is just that I'm not as familiar with it as I am with other shows. But that was like the only thing that I was like, I wish this was just a little bit better, but I don't even know if that's something that they can control. It might just be that we don't know the material.
Yep.
But really, really fun show. Honestly, if we cannot find another evening show next Sunday on our last night here, we might go back to this one because it was that fun. Really, really fun. If you know, I know some of you already like messaged me that you know people that are involved in this show. If you do, please tell them that this show kicks some ass, and I really, really hope it has some longevity. I think because of the Titanic tie-in, it will. And again, like we're in previews, the reviews haven't come out, and it was a full house tonight. And again, small off-Broadway theater, but really, really nice space. It's at the Orpheum, which probably about the same size as the Daryl Roth where Titanique is.
Yeah.
Slightly different configuration, but really, really nice venue. I'd never been to an off-Broadway show until our last trip out here, and we really only did Titanique, right? I think that was the only off-Broadway that we did. Off-Broadway deserves some love, guys. Like, off-Broadway shows, I think sometimes get a negative connotation, like, oh, they're not going to be as entertaining or high budget as the Broadway shows. And sometimes that's true, but at least about the budget. But in terms of the talent that's on stage, it's like they're on the same. These performers are on the same caliber. These performers, a lot of them have Broadway credits already, and I bet after this they're gonna have bigger projects coming down the line. So, go out and support your off-Broadway shows. I mean, they're just as good and as entertaining. And because they're in smaller houses, honestly, sometimes that enhances the experience. I think that definitely enhances the experience on these two shows. Yeah. That it feels like, it feels very immediate because you're not, we were in the mezzanine, and our row was probably 15-20 feet away from the stage. like we were really, really close, even though we were in a lower price ticket area. So go out and support those theaters if you're in New York. They really are worthwhile. All right, so tomorrow we are seeing the revival of Sunset Boulevard. We're going to the second New York preview performance of that, and that's been getting great word of mouth and got incredible reviews when it was in London and won a bunch of awards over there. So we're super excited about that.
Yes.
And we will tell you all about that tomorrow night. Bye, everyone.
Bye.